Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Is my daughter. So I had our first daughter was born, and as a JTech, you're gone a lot. So I would travel maybe 2 weeks out of every month, and then I deployed for 6 months, which isn't great for being a father and a husband. My first year of being married, I was probably gone about 8 months of that first year.
Was she pregnant?
No, she wasn't
Okay.
pregnant.
It's hard, man. When you're gone and they're pregnant, oh my goodness.
I bet.
I mean, it's hard when you're here and they're pregnant. I'm
Not
telling
gonna
you.
say that on camera. Come here.
No, you see this gray hair? Yeah, right? Yeah, seriously, man. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's hard, right?
Yep.
But it's a good kind of hard, They don't remember it. My wife and I were just talking. We've been married 30 years. We were just talking the other day. Our kids are 25 and 23. We were just talking the other day about, I'm like, this happened. I don't remember any of it. I know you don't. But she was asking me,
Yeah.
why did we do this? Right. And I said, we picked an insurance plan. She goes, why did we pick that insurance? I said, well, we picked it because we thought it was the best thing to do. But then when Michael was born, we learned that it wasn't. And your OBGYN and I had a conversation, right? And I explained to her about the conversation, and she's like, I don't remember any of this. I said, well, you weren't present. You were in bed. Your water just broken, right? And I'm talking to the OBGYN outside, your doctor outside, about whether or not we're going to go get Michael because his head was too big to go down the birth canal. And she's like, do you want to keep trying to do it naturally? I think, no. And so that's how all that came about. So I told her that story the other day, and she's like, I don't remember any of this. I'm like, no, you don't remember any of it, period.
The important question, though, is does your son have a big head today?
Oh, yeah. You have no idea where he got it from either, do you? You have no idea. I wear the single largest size of production hat known to man. After this cabeza, you have to go custom.
That's great.
Stetson loves me, right? So anyway, so daughter comes, daughter's on the way.
Yep.
And that basically you start looking at it going, okay, how am I going to be a supportive partner, right? And how am I going to be a dad when I'm gone all the time? And let's be honest, what you're doing for a living is pretty friggin' risky.
It's risk adverse. Everyone, but I don't know. It was a tough decision. So the Air Force gave us the choice of moving to Hawaii from Colorado Springs. So we were living in Colorado Springs, awesome. And they said, well, you could stay in and move to Hawaii.
Oh, that's rough.
Or get out, right?
Yeah.
And so I decided before that I was going to get out, but then we get Hawaii, and I was like, well,
yeah,
Hawaii would be pretty cool for a few years.
Kind of.
But we decided to get out and, kind of made that decision as a family. And this is the problem that I think a lot of vets have, or a lot of people coming out of the military have, is you start looking at what your job is and trying to pick out all these different keywords that will fit then on a resume, and then matching that resume up with what would work out in the world. And then you just kind of box yourself in. You said, you know what, I can do all these things because this fits my one-page resume that we got from all these keywords. The problem is almost every single person I know that served in the military at one point was asked to do something that was seemingly impossible. Now, when you describe it to other people, it sounds ridiculous. So at 19 years old, someone handed me a wrench, said, hey, fix this $24 million fighter jet. It was 19.
Yeah.
28 years old, I got put in charge of combat operations across all of Iraq. So then I saw 6 different locations with teams and spread across the Middle East. And I was 28 years old and I was in charge of combat operations there.
Mhm.
Those kind of things are hard to put on a resume.
Yeah.
It doesn't translate
Yeah.
because then it really just translates to did operations in the Middle East.
Mhm.
And so I went down that path and I went into operations. I worked for Amazon for a bit and I worked my way up until I was at this middle market company in an executive role.
Mhm.
And then I was stuck
Yeah.
because I climbed the ladder. I did everything you're supposed to do. Went to a good college, got my MBA, went to a big company and then went to a great company and worked there until I was topped out. And I was at this point in life where I said, what am I supposed to do now?
Where'd you get your MBA?
Liberty University.
Oh, awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So Liberty University, so the pastor who married us 30 years ago did our premarital counseling 31 years ago. Still a good buddy of mine. In fact, he's the ghostwriter on my new book that I'm writing. And he volunteered, by the way. I didn't have to twist his arm at all. I'm like, right? What's this? So his son, his oldest son, Brock, was the starting quarterback junior and senior year for Liberty University's football team,
Oh, cool.
and actually coached football for their high school. Liberty University has a high school. He
Yeah.
coached their varsity football team for a number of years. Now he's the coach of the year in Arizona, and Mr. Amazing and all that kind of stuff, right? So Liberty University, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you get your MBA from Liberty University, and you get to a point to where you're stuck. Then what do you do?
Well, I knew the only place I could go was back to a big company. When it comes to your traditional corporate ladder, really the only place for me to go from there was back to a company like Amazon. I knew I didn't want to do that
Yeah.
because I loved the company I was working for. They were very Christian based, very family oriented. I knew the owner, their son, their grandkids, like the uncle. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And when it came to working for anybody, I don't think I could have found a better position to be in than that.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so I started reaching out to mentors, said, I need to find a different way to grow. And that's when I was really introduced to real estate,
Beautiful.
where I learned of this course called the White Feather Accelerator, where they take veterans and teach you in 6 months, hey, these are all the different ways to go into real estate.
Mhm.
In that course, I learned about wholesaling, flipping, short-term rentals, investing in passive income and tax
Mhm.
savings. And I saw somebody in one of the past courses did a wholesale deal that netted them $50,000.
Mhm.
And so I talked to my wife. I said, I want to beat that.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to do. And I teach the course now. I help teach it. It's not mine, but like I help teach it now. But the thing that we tell people and the thing that I heard was, okay, you just have to go out and make offers.
Yeah.
Go out, make offers, and you're going to find a great deal.
Mhm.
But it takes a lot of rejection to do that, right? Because you'll
Yes.
make 100 offers that won't go through. And that's usually the place where people stop.
Yeah.
But for me, I knew that if I kept making offers, it would eventually happen. So on my 124th offer,
Mhm.
I made an offer on a portfolio in Florida
Mhm.
that ended up shortening this story a bit, but ended up having be $2 million off of what the listing price was on that portfolio and created a wholesale deal that netted $600,000.
Beautiful.
And so I
Beautiful.
learned in
You
that
beat the
process.
50,000.
Yeah, I hit my original goal of beating the 50 grand, but I learned and I was still working and running this company. So like what I would do is I had to be really deliberate about my hours.
Oh,
I knew if
sure.
I got to work at 6 and nobody showed up till 7, I could work on real estate from 6 to 7.
Mhm.
And then everyone went to lunch at noon. And so from noon to 1, I would make phone calls on the East Coast and make offers and try to find homes in Florida and Alabama. And
Mhm.
then when I would go home after I put the girls to bed, I would start looking at homes again on like Zillow and Redfin. And I did this every single day until the point where I said we had 124 offers in.
Mhm.
But what I learned was, I learned the skill of creating money or manufacturing money because it's like one of the biggest skills as a business owner
Mhm.
is okay, this is how I can manufacture money.
Mhm.
And so my wife and I we had a trip planned to Hawaii. And we sat down at the Kona Brewing Company and said, okay, are we going to do this full speed? We know what this looks like doing part-time.
Mhm.
Like, are we going to leave like all this security? Like, you're make great money at this company that I love working at
Mhm.
to run after starting your own business. And it was the easiest conversation. And we
Yeah,
said, yeah, let's jump into it.
that's cool. That is really cool. Do you know I started a wholesaling company last year?
No,
Yeah, I'm actually wholesaling now. This is cool.
that's awesome.
This is awesome. So you start the company, then what happens?
Um, so I had to stumble through it a bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, we created this huge influx of cash. I didn't have a sure direction on where I wanted to go or how I wanted to start this business. What we wholesaled were 10 homes next to the beach in Daytona Beach shores,
Mhm.
which then also created a short-term rental business. And so a lot of my focus went into setting up that management company, making sure all those homes got furnished. And that took a good 6 months to do.
Wow.
And we took a lot of setbacks in that 6 months. We
Mhm.
hired bad contractors, like lost money in that process. And so I was kind of fixing it and making sure it all happened so that we got to the point we're at today, where now, like, we've got our direct booking site, we're listed everywhere, all the homes are beautiful and running.
Yeah.
But that took like a lot of that 6 months. But I also knew, I was like, okay, well, I have to figure out how to keep wholesaling and what else do I really want to happen from this?
Right.
And I didn't know.
Yeah.
I knew I could manufacture money. I knew I could figure out how to wholesale.
Mhm.
We had this short-term rental business, which was paying the bills,
Mhm.
but I wasn't really sure what I was going to do next. And I end up speaking at this event in Vegas called the Veterans for Financial Freedom Summit. And
Mhm.
I meet a man named James. And James looks at me and he says, hearing about all like the little things we've talked about in my life, he said, you've made it through all these points in life that you really shouldn't have gotten out of.
Yeah.
Like places people normally get stuck in life.
Mhm.
You didn't. You should write this in a book.
Mhm.
And honestly, I wrote it off for a little bit.
Mhm.
But James and I kept in touch. We became more closer friends until I finally sat down and I was like, you know what? Let me put this all down and we'll see what comes from it.
Yeah. I love it. That's so cool. So you make the decision to write the book. What was the thing that made you finally make that decision? Like you put it off, right? You kept talking to James. What was the one thing that just kind of pushed you over the edge and you started taking action?
Well, I'll tell you, my biggest fear as a father is that my two girls won't understand hard work.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, and myself included, you learn hard work by going through these adverse situations and you're forced to really push yourself out of it.
Mhm.
And, now we've found success in our life. And obviously I want to give my girls and my wife everything, but I'm fearful of making sure that they know hard work and they know what work ethic is. And so I wanted to sit down and really write out these stories so that they could see, like, okay, these are all the things that helped get us to this point in life.
Mhm.
And although I started writing these stuff down for my girls, as I did, and as I started to pull these stories out of me, I realized that these were things that were going to help other people.
Yeah.
And so that just really burst open the door of what I thought it was going to be into what it is now.
Yeah. So I told my kids when they were growing up, I said, you're going to have a much better life standard of living than I had. I'm determined to deliver that for you. Here's the thing. If I had a time capsule, I would send you back in time to work on the farm with my grandfather in Oklahoma, just like I did. I farmed with him for 9 years. And it was the absolute best thing I could have done because everything I did on that farm was what made everything else I did for the rest of my life easy. Like
Yeah.
it feels like I'm cheating, right? Or I'm playing hooky or whatever. So I told him, I said, listen, if you ever, if you ever sound like, act like, I get any inkling whatsoever that you're entitled, spoiled, any of these things, I'm going to take you myself to a local horse ranch here and you will muck out stalls until you don't feel entitled anymore. And you'll do it for free. And they looked at me and they said, what's muck? what's the, and I explained to them what it was, right? And they went, oh no. I'm like, yeah. So every time they started to even sound right, I'd ask them, you ready to muck out some stalls? Took care of
Yeah.
it, right? So they grew up with an appreciation. Now they didn't do the blood, sweat, and tears thing, right? They weren't out in the sun in 100-degree weather and 100% humidity and all that, they weren't in that, right? That builds character. That kind of stuff is, and watching my grandfather and learning from him, I use stuff I will learn from him every day. And I would not change it for the world, and they learned a lot about hard work by watching me, and watching what I did. So it's been, it's not a substitution, but it's a good way to help, right? As far as them going. So you put it in a book. How long did it take you to write the book?
3 months from start to publish.
Ooh,
But
wow.
I
worked
put
your tail
everything in.
off.
Yeah. I like to do triathlon races because it's something that really helps me kind of stay in lane.
Yeah.
And I was skipping workouts, like going to the coffee shop, writing, and then my triathlon coach would text me like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, get your butt on your bike." um, and so for
This
3
is not
months,
helping.
no, 3 months, I really put all my focus and everything because I was never really a good sharer. I spent all that time in special warfare, and I didn't even have an internet footprint before that.
Yeah.
And so I had to really pull this stuff out of me. And once I did, I was like, okay, let's keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's pour it out.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. So you write the book, you get it published. How long ago did you publish it?
On Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Okay. And it's called
Never Outworked.
Never Outworked.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. So where can people can get it at Amazon?
Yep. It's on Amazon, on my website, neverbyoutworked.com.
Okay. All right. So we will put a link to it on our description so people can go to it. As this is cool. This is really cool. Is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up?
No, I think one thing I like to leave with you, and like we talked about, is for military vets and people getting out, like you don't realize how capable you are.
Yeah.
Because at some point somebody asked you to do something that was so huge, but you didn't question it. You said, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and you made it happen. But when you try to describe that to somebody else outside the military, it sounds impossible. It sounds remarkable, and it's because it is.
Yeah.
And so don't think that you're only limited by these keywords or what we can fit on a paper, because you already know what you're capable of.
Yeah. No, it's true. And we worked, I owned a Keller Williams office for 18 years, and I had a bunch of veterans that came to work with us, and I would sit with them, right? And we would talk about how different it is being in the military versus being in real estate. And we'd talk about what their experiences were like and where they were in terms of their psyche and where they are now. And so one of the things that I do is I volunteer for the USO at Camp Pendleton out here. And I told them, I said, listen, if you need somebody to come in and talk and help these active duty personnel figure out how to get into the private sector, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to help, right? And so, there were a lot of people that we worked with over the years. They'd come out, and by the way, I know this is not a subject that we're talking about here, but part of what causes, I think, or exacerbates PTSD is they get out of the military, and then that's bam. There's no their units scattered, right? Everybody goes somewhere else in the world, right? Yep. You go back to Philadelphia, they go back to wherever, one guy goes to Detroit. Okay. You're not together anymore. And these are the people that you literally put your life in their hands, and they in yours. Right. And all of a sudden you're like a fish out of water, and nobody's telling you where to go. Nobody's telling you, and people think that PTSD is just ugly stuff that they've seen. That's part of it. But the other part of it is the actual atmosphere that they come back to, because they're not the same person that they were when they left that house, and now they're back in their parents' house.
It's this feeling of isolation.
It's a fish out of water.
Only gets exacerbated.
Yeah, right. So one of the things that I think is incredibly important when you're a veteran, when you're somebody like you, is what you're doing, which is giving back to people, right? And being a sounding board, being somebody that they can come to and go, hey, I'm lost. You know what I mean? Because people suffer in silence, especially big, tough soldiers, right? Marines, right? They suffer in silence. They don't talk about what's going on. They don't talk about how they're feeling, because that's not what you're supposed to do, right? Fact of the matter is, you need to get back with people that think like you've thought and lived like you've lived and been through the kind of training that you've been through, so that you can compare notes and talk about it. I think it's incredibly important. I think part of the reason why we have an average of 22 suicides a day is because they feel like they don't have any other option. They have no other place to go. And that's the last thing in the world that I or anybody else wants, is for them to feel like that.
Yeah. And that's what I was telling you. You know, I don't try to just speak to veterans. Obviously, a lot of times I do speak to veterans, but speaking and writing has really given me the ability to impact people that grew up in an abusive home, or that had to struggle with PTSD, or who felt depression and had suicidal thoughts, and who think that they don't have this capability of making an incredible life for themselves, but they do.
Yeah.
And it really just comes down to, kind of working through those demons, forgiving that past, like learning to love yourself, and then putting in that work to get to where you want to be.
Well,
And
and
so-
getting around support.
Yeah,
Right? Getting around places where you can get support. Okay.
100%.
Go to the VA, go to the places where you can sit and you can have a conversation with other people that have been through what you've been through. You with me? And I know from our fan mail that we have active duty personnel that listen to this podcast. They're fans of ours. And, the thing is, they're going to be getting out, right? Someday they're going to get out. And when they decide to get out, I feel like it's incredibly important from a veteran to them, that we pass that message on, that they understand that this is going to be a challenge. It's not easy, right? But it can be done.
Yep.
And if you, like you're saying, if you learn how to take care of yourself, right? Cherish yourself, raise your own tide, so to speak, right? You were talking about rising tide, lifts all ships, right? That's what this is about. And so, it's not about pride. It's not about any of that. It's about get together with people that have been through something like what you've been through, have a conversation.
Self-care is not selfish.
No, it's a big deal.
Essential.
And self-care is something that I had to learn through a whole bunch of, I'm not very smart. So, you got to kind of hit me upside the head, which God did, right? And to my credit, I listened. But the thing is, there's a reason, and we talk about this all the time, but there's a reason why when those oxygen masks drop on an airplane, you put yours on first and then you assist somebody. Okay.
Exactly.
Self-care is exactly that. Put that mask on and adjust it, and then go to work helping the rest of the world. If you don't take care of you, you can't take care of everybody else. Right? You can't do the things that you want to do. You have to take care of you first. So, I'm so pumped that you were on here today. I'm about ready to run through a wall. This is so cool. So we're going to put a link to your book on the description. If there's ever anything I can do to help you, or like I said, if you ever have anything that's coming up that you're working on, you're more than welcome to come back. We'd love to have you.
Likewise, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience.
Thank you.
I was a fan of yours before we started, and now it's like 10. You're awesome, buddy. Thanks. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.